today, I think the big topic is, are we heading towards a situation where there are two completely separate tech industries? Especially recently, that's been more and more of a topic. Do you think that's a desirable outcome? And if not, how do we avoid that?
Well, I guess there are two kinds of ways to address the big question you're asking. One is the global macroscopic, playing God and looking at the world and say, how can everybody be better off and how can we all get along? And that's what we all do a lot of on the media. And the other question is, with me and my small company or my entrepreneur, how can I take advantage of the situation? So those are two ways of looking at it. So I'm definitely more positive about the latter than the former. It may be the highly inefficient case of two different tech industries or two different ways of speccing things, with a Western group, a European American group, and then a China, Africa, part of Asia kind of consortium of sorts, and that's clearly a negative for everybody. Everybody loses in that proposition. But it's an open issue. I mean, we have to see how it happens. I mean, I could list 4, 5, 6 real contentious areas between China and the U.S. And they're all, when you really think about it, pretty trivial compared to the opportunities. But because of nationalism, those are dominant right now and heading in the wrong direction. Yeah. So I've said that we just might have to wait until things get sufficiently bad that both sides are pretty much exhausted by the drill, that they maybe have a different look. Because in China, many of the rational heads are keeping their heads within tortoiseshells because it is not politically wise for them to comment, because they'll be attacked in their own area, and you see the same in the U.S. as well. I mean, I've been subject to that, and so I feel I'm a more loyal American because I'm trying to tell the truth about China. But other people may not see it that way. So on the second part, though, in terms of opportunity, there really is opportunity when it sounds like the first part would prescribe it. But no, there is real opportunity because China is now seeing the need for its internal innovation and self-sufficiency in key technologies. And certainly everything having to do with cloud is among them. Obviously start with semiconductors and kind of hardware, firmware, and then the whole AI, 5G, quantum computing, cloud, big data, that whole spectrum is dominant. As China builds its internal consumption, the emphasis is on e-commerce, where China is, arguably the world's leader in terms of electronic payments and use of big data and AI in those areas. So here's the way to think about smaller companies: is that in China, people in the West have the impression that all China is united to attack and hurt Western companies or foreign companies in general. It can be Korean or Japanese, doesn't have to be, as long as they're foreign. All the Chinese companies have this unity to beat the West or beat foreign companies. And that's exactly wrong. That's not the way. In China, because the government wants to have a vibrant market economy, albeit in a rigid political system and no free media. But they do want an open and competitive economy. So the government encourages strong competition among groups within industries. And so from the individual company point of view, they're not interested in, to the most part, kind of attacking or thinking about foreign companies. They're thinking about how to compete with their own Chinese competitors, because that's where their world is. That's 90% of their business or whatever. So in those situations, you have different major Chinese entities competing, and there's opportunity because each one of those companies are going to want to enhance their own capacity to compete in their own market. So they will be looking for foreign partners to ally with them, to help them with their own internal competition.
Yeah.
And so therein lies the opportunity for many foreign companies to find the right partner. So if you have a kind of not a duopoly or an oligarchy where you have 5 or 6 leaders, if you have a joint venture or you venture with any one of those, you can have a real business in China. It almost doesn't matter which one, because you'll be part of that individual ecosystem. Another thing that people should look at is that there's the Communist Party has what they call a plenum, which is when the Central Committee meets. It's a little more than once a year between party congresses. So they have like 7 every 5 years, party congress every 5 years. And the one coming up in a few days, the end of October, is the 5th plenum of the 19th Party Congress, which will have as its main purpose the setting of the framework for the 14th 5-year plan. China still works with 5-year plans, a holdover from the old Soviet Union, but it's very different. It's not a planned economy where they plan the number of shoes that are going to be produced. They don't do that, but it gives guidelines to where the government will put resources behind.